Mushroom Girl, a name that makes every small gaming commentary channel without a mother figure shiver. I've had my sights on her for over a year now, and while she's made plenty of videos that I heavily disagree with, I decided to keep my tongue shut because I'm just a little wet cat, you guys. But going after a fellow get a power? Yeah, no, can't let that slide. Plus, most of her videos, like her questionable videos, are like a year old, so I don't know if I really should talk about them as her views might have changed. But I might briefly mention them in this video, however, so take it with a grain of salt. Actually, take this whole video with a canister of salt, as color reels aren't that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. Palestinians are literally being flattened by steamrollers, starved, and murdered for fun, and I'd encourage you to donate to links in the description, or share them to someone who can, as that's a billion times more important than art tools. Anyways, disclaimer. This is neither an attack on Mushroom Girl, nor a personal defense for zepn1. I'm not going to go full parasocial here, unless she wants to pay me to be her internet lawyer. I'd take that. I'm also a big fan of Mushroom Girl herself when it comes to her OCs, animations, art in general, honestly. Just when it comes to her commentary, not so much. Please don't send hate to either of these creators because that's genuinely crappy and a gross thing to do. They're real people, not just PNGs of Max or a generic black-haired persona.
But so what, Zeppy? Maybe I like the color wheel. Maybe I think it looks nice.
This filter is put over their voice multiple times in this video, which wouldn't be an issue if it weren't for the fact that you could barely hear what they're trying to say because of the echo.
Well, isn't this the best video to start adding a filter to your own voice? I'm kidding. This isn't a real point, but I thought it'd be funny to point out. Personally, I found it easy to decipher, but whatever. And if we're out here nitpicking the crafts of commentary, there's an annoyingly prevalent problem in this video. You'll notice if you watch the entire thing in the description, but Mushroom Girl tends to just not cut out the footage she's not commentating on. It weakens her point, as zepn will make a totally valid argument against the color wheel, and it just goes without any acknowledgement. Like, is zepn right? Is she wrong? Is he just being a fibbery gibbet?
Complementary colors are not as complementary as you may think. Like, let's be real, they're kinda ugly. Hot Wheels, Tomato, 2020 Starry Galaxy Bubble Tea.
But that has nothing to do with the palette consisting of complementary colors.
This isn't what she was talking about, and I'm going to be saying that a lot in this video, as a lot just flies over Mushroom Girl's head majority of the time. When zepn says complementary colors aren't as complementary as you think, she isn't being literal here. She's more alluding to the fact that many artists think that just including a complementary palette is enough to create a cohesive palette for their drawings, when in fact isn't. This is well demonstrated by the Hot Wheels example shown below. The orange and blues are fighting for dominance, as they're both bright and spread equally across the track, giving it a crowded and noisy feel that most don't want in their artwork. And Mushroom Girl points this out herself.
That Hot Wheels racetrack is insanely bright and eye-bleeding. The issue isn't blue and orange being put together, it's the brightness of those colors. A color palette won't look good if the colors are so eye-bleeding that they make you want to die.
She just didn't get the message of what zepn was trying to say. It's not the complementary colors that are the problem, it's the fact that it's not enough, and color theory is more complicated than blue and orange are opposites. And in my opinion, a major flaw in MG's video. She doesn't understand zepn's overly sarcastic and comedic tone, which I don't hold to her against. It happens to the best of us, and even me. However, I'll be initiating some friendly fire against zepn1 here, as the two other examples are, in my opinion, good examples of complementary color palettes being used well. Firstly, with a tomato, the red is the main color, while green is the accent. This is one of the best ways you can use complementary colors, having one dominate while the other color supports it. We can see that the main color, red, is bright and takes up the majority of the tomato, while the accent color, green, is more saturated and takes up less space of the tomato, residing only at the top. Also, seriously, zepn1, dissing the creation of God. Astaghfirullah, man. Anyways, as for the non-binary lore tea, this is a good example of a split complementary color scheme. Rather than just purple and yellow, artist also uses blue for a hue variety and to add more interest to the drawing. This also makes the yellow pop more, as it's the only bright, warm color used in the artwork. And like MG says, it's fine not to like these color palettes. Just know that you're the minority, and this is a death game by majority. If you want to know more about color theory, I'd personally recommend Mark Burnett's YouTube art school tutorials, as they're really helpful and have improved my art a ton, and I'll leave a link to it. Probably. But remember,
I realized the many ways the color wheel had been holding me back.
I'm gonna be honest here, I'm not sure how this section correlates to the color wheel tool. The color wheel doesn't force you to pick complementary colors, you just force that upon yourself for no reason.
I'll flesh this out later in the video, but this video isn't saying that the color wheel forces you to make bad decisions. It just encourages it. You can still make stunning art with amazing colors with the color wheel, how pretty much every artist does it. However, would you rather fight against the color wheel or work together with a color slider?
If we look at this design, nothing is quantified. There's no numbers.
There's numbers on the Ibis Paint X color tool.
MG, the numbers are on the color slider, that's not the color wheel! And yeah, there is a hex code on the color wheel, but seriously, what artist wants to learn how to speak hexagon? Not me, that's for sure. You can catch me outside googling the hex code for the color black for the 50 billionth time while I try to fill out a free-to-use code for my toy house, which you should follow. It's not done. The profile's not done yet, though.
Drag this down a little bit. Oh, wait, no. That's way too dark. Okay, let's try again. Let's drag it up a tiny little bit more.
Yeah, that's her point. The color wheel is imprecise, and it's easy to not even move it in the right direction when you mean to, especially when you try to move it slightly. I feel like you should know this more than anyone, MG. You're a finger artist. I think I could use like an Apple pen or something. Please don't correct me. I don't really care.
Square in the center may lead to some fresher artists electing to consider only values and ignore the shifting of hue. 2 years ago, if I had this nice red here, I would have looked at my big color wheel square and pulled that down a few shades.
That would be the fault of your ignorance as an artist, not the color wheel.
Yes, the ignorance. That's encouraged by the color wheel. The color wheel places emphasis on saturation and brightness by making it bigger than the hueing around it. While the hue, saturation, and brightness on the color slider, the hue, saturation, and brightness are all equal sizes, avoiding this subliminal messaging, which may be helpful to beginner artists. Which is what zepn says in her video, right after MG just leaves it in without acknowledging it.
The color wheel tricks you into doing this. A giant, imprecise, dumb square slabbed in the center with such a small amount of space allocated to the hue ring. This places the hue lower on your visual hierarchy, and even though you may be conscious to not just color pick based on tint and shade alone, it may subtly communicate to you that you should be less adventurous with your hues.
Bruh, she just literally disproved your point, and you're just not gonna bring it up? And it's just in the video? It's like it's taunting me or something.
The new color you chose is viewed relative to those around it. So while this blue may look light on your color wheel, it will be too dark on your artwork.
The very simple and obvious solution to this is just look at the square where it puts the color you selected. That's like half the purpose of that feature, to let you look at the color you picked.
Kinda. I mean, there's a difference between seeing the color next to your previous color and seeing it with the rest of the piece, but to be honest, I don't know how the color slider or the color wheel would help with this. I really don't get what either of you are saying. I feel pea-brained right now.
It doesn't work properly if you make it really small because the square in the middle shrinks and the imprecision somehow gets worse.
Which is why you recommend the color slider, which is even smaller, making it less precise.
While the color slider is smaller, it doesn't affect how the slider is used. The color slider is just a straight line that goes back and forth, and as long as you see the color, the slider can be however small it wants to be. What also helps in favor of the color slider is that the brightness and saturation are separate sliders, which can be altered with independently. However, with the color wheel, it's merged together, which brings it to the second dimension. This makes it so the square has to be big enough to contain every possible combination of brightness and saturation, which is not feasibly possible without your whole screen being drowned out. And even then, it has to be perceived by our orbs of flesh, and for our peripheral devices of our choice to select them.
So when shading, I turn the brightness down, but I always make sure to change up that hue a little to avoid my drawing looking drab.
Which you can easily do with the color wheel you hate so much.
Were you listening to the entire video? Honestly, just rewind this video to see the counterpoints against this. I can't be bothered to repeat myself, and plus, it gives me more watch time. So, yeah.
So that's basically the end of their video, but I wanted to point out something in their pinned comments. A lot of people have told me that they've gotten a wake-up call from this video, and if you don't find yourself in the same situation, I honestly don't need to know. So you actively admit that you don't welcome any form of criticism on a video over-exaggeratedly crapping on the color wheel. It honestly comes off as really immature.
That's not what she's saying. She isn't dodging criticism. She just doesn't want to hear repetitive, uncreative comments going, actually, I don't like color sliders. It's not that she doesn't welcome different opinions, it's that she just doesn't want to hear them, which may sound immature, but to be honest, in a 10-minute comedic video on why the color wheel is the evilest thing ever, I can understand why she wouldn't want to hear it, as it really isn't that deep. It's not like she doesn't want to hear criticism on why, I don't know, she's an evil person or something. It's just colors. Editing epics here? Literally in everyone's comment, the comment that MG showed in her video, I don't know how she didn't say this, but she literally says we're both allowed to be right while having differing opinions. She's literally allowing people to criticize her. She just doesn't want people attacking her, which she says in the beginning of the comment, that it doesn't justify an attack on me or my skills as an artist. And she's saying this video is optional advice. I don't know how MG didn't see this. She quite literally showed it in her video, and she's claiming, why aren't you welcoming other opinions? Yes, she's welcoming different opinions. It's just that she's not welcoming hate or attacks. And honestly, I think it's kind of dishonest to just disregard that point and sell this, like, false narrative of her being, like, immature and ignorant. So honestly, in my opinion, that's just a bit icky. I don't like the word icky, but yeah, it just is. So in conclusion, MJ completely misses the points of zepn's argument or ignores it entirely. I wouldn't mind an actual defense video of the color wheel, as there are benefits to it. It's easier to visualize color schemes, it's bigger and easier to see, it's easier to use when you don't have much knowledge on color theory, as you can clearly see how saturation and brightness directly affects the color. If you kind of get what I mean, like if you look on the square, you can see the darker and the lighter versions of a color, which beginner artists might not be able to visualize in their mind with just a color slider. Hell, even I still use the color wheel, but that's because Firepacker, being the amazing software it is, doesn't have it. But it does have a $40 dark mode. Isn't that amazing? However, this video fails to do so. And this isn't what bothers me. I don't care if a random 16-year-old has a bad argument against a digital art tool that most don't even consider while drawing. It's just that this argument style, quote unquote, seeps into her other videos, which covers more heavy topics, which usually ends in disaster. Hell, most of her commentary videos I actually do agree with, but her reasons for her beliefs are distasteful to say the least. It's like she completely undoes what she's saying, trying to prove a completely valid point. So what I want to come out of this video is that MG should be more careful when it comes to heavy topics in her other videos and just improve her craft in general. I'm just commenting this in this video because, I don't know, I don't want to get too heavy here. I don't know, maybe when I'm feeling a bit more insane, I might come up with a hot take, but yeah. And also, I just wanted to improve her craft in general, and I know she's already gotten flack for this in the past, so honestly, if Mushroom Girl doesn't want to take this advice, then fine. I don't really care. I just want to put it out there for this video. The fact that a lot of the points that MG didn't want to respond to or didn't need to respond to were just left in the video, which made this viewing experience hard to watch and even harder to commentate, as I had to rewind several times to catch which point she was referring to in her rebuttal. And while this may seem hypocritical though, as this is my first commentary video, and I'm in no way saying I'm a pro. I've just been doing video editing ever since I was 5 or 6 years old. Yeah, I was a chronically online computer kid, not iPad kid. At least my chronically online comes with the skills to use Sony Vegas. Take that, Gen Alpha. And I'm just an overall fan of not only the art commentary community, but commentary in general for several years now. So I at least would like to think I have a stand in the game, however that saying goes. But hey, what are your thoughts on the matter? Are you team color wheel or team color slider? Did I say something incredibly dumb that made you want to peel your skin off? Do you think
mushrooms
are kind of a gross vegetable and tasteless at best? Leave your thoughts below. And make sure to check out my card with all my socials and donate to Gaza in the description, as yes, even in a silly video about digital art tools that leave you feeling like everyone involved should just touch grass, we still need to remember that children, women, people, humans are being murdered by Israel, and now is the time to stay silent. If you can't donate, please spread awareness, as it might reach someone who can't, and your voice, as well as others, can break Israeli propaganda and save lives out there as well. And with all that said, this is the end of the video. So, how do you end these things? Anyways, like, subscribe, and hit the share to Reddit button, because, I don't know, that's a funny